morning, neighbors. Thank you so much for joining us on the Power Breakfast Show this Thursday morning. It is Thursday. That's right, the 20th day of July. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Yes, on the show this morning, we got the R's. We got Paul Richards. We got Richard Raghubarse. We got Ruben. And I don't have an hour. My name is Steve Khan. We'll keep you company until 9 o'clock this morning. All right. Let's see what's happening traffic-wise. I got nothing for you. Nothing traffic-wise to talk about. Nothing. Just getting a Port of Spain and got a little volume. But that's about it. Weather-wise, what's the temperature right now? It's 25 degrees on both Trinidad and Tobago. What's the weather forecast looking like from the Met Office of TNT? They're saying generally sunny, hazy, and breezy at times, despite showers over a few areas. There's a low 20 to 30% chance of an isolated heavier shower or thunderstorm favoring western Trinidad during the afternoon. Mostly fair but hazy night. In the event of heavy showers or thunderstorms, gusty winds and street flash flooding can occur. Sahara dust is present in our atmosphere, and let me tell you, I felt that this morning and still feeling it. I have no sinus tabs. I went looking, nothing at home, no sinus. I gotta pick it up. But that's your WTs this morning. Quick one. Let's see who sent us hellos first thing this morning. First off the gate, we've got Oliver Man Warren, followed by Maria Marva, DJ Ray out in Delaware, Rena Budu Jennings. Good morning, DX. It's been a while, DX. Morning from Lake Placid, he says. Miss Ingrid out in Tucson, Arizona. Carol Guevara, Big Guy. Dennis, good morning. Ms. Maloney Dudu, good morning to you as well. Coming up on YouTube, for those who are watching us on YouTube, Gloria Gray, good morning. Anthony Tinto, good morning to you as well. And happy birthday to Fatso from your cousin Anthony. Okay. Hello, Fatso. Happy birthday. Marcia Rock, good morning. And let me throw it across to the one, the only, the man with no smile on his face, Paul Richards.
You're not paying for a smile. Good morning.
I'll buy you doubles.
I'm good, thanks.
Put a smile on your face.
It actually will, but
and a coconut.
I've had my doubles for the month already. The first thing I did when I came back is went and had 2 doubles in Europe. For some reason I was yearning for doubles in Europe. I just went. It was early Sunday morning and I just went and got 2 doubles. Is it Source is the man name?
Yeah. Why didn't you go right by Ali's Lane, Barataria?
Because I would have had to pass home to get there when I could go easily.
Oh, I got you. I got you. I go by Ali's all the time. I WhatsApp my order actually, so when I get there, it's ready. I like that. Saturday
good morning, everyone.
We WhatsApp. Morning, pal. What's going on? Lots of things happening.
Lots of things happening.
This country just cannot settle down, boy.
Well, I don't know about settle down, but it's always a lot happening. I don't know what settle down means.
There's always something popping up.
There's always some drama.
That's it. Something.
But the drama yesterday was the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Fadi Augustine. In an unusual sitting, I must say it was quite unusual for me to see videos being played back in the Assembly and documents being posted on their stream and broadcast. It was very, very odd. But he made several startling allegations, Mr. Augustine, that is, about alleging that a young man whom I think was Abdullah Akil is his name. He taped the man. The man requested meetings with him. The man was or maybe still is a former executive of the PDP and requested to meet with him. He met with him on 2 occasions and recorded an interface with the young man with the knowledge of the young man. And the young man is alleging that he met with the Prime Minister. He said, Ansel put him there. And while in the meeting, the Prime Minister called Erla, as in the Commissioner of Police, directing her to do X, Y, and Z. And the Commissioner of Police has since staunchly denied any such thing took place. I don't know.
I don't know myself. All this we heard. Everybody said, nah, I don't know what he's talking about. And that is not true. You don't know who's
But a
telling
lot of what he said, because he said it in the precincts of the chamber, is covered, you know. So the Prime Minister immediately responded, putting out a massive document that said Mr. Augustine's allegations are fabrications of his own imagination, and no such activity took place. Then the Commissioner of Police had a press conference, which will in a short while.
Yeah.
A clip of it indicating that Mr. Augustine's allegations are false also. And the police acted independently, and her officers continue to act independently and according to their normal practices. So yes, she said her officers acted properly and independently regarding the recent searches of several past and present members of the Tobago House of Assembly. Mr. Augustine alleged political interference and police misconduct regarding the evidence used to acquire warrants for the search of his residence. Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. Never a dull moment.
So those are the two very big stories yesterday.
Yeah, of course, we will speak with Dr. Vanus James out in Tobago this morning.
I tell you.
Yeah. No kidding.
And of course, the procurement amendment legislation was debated in the House yesterday. The Minister of Finance piloting and several speakers, including the leader of the opposition, making contributions to the legislation. Why is this thing not emailing? Yeah. Contributions to the legislation or the proposed changes. Mrs. Pasalbi says outlining her party's perspective that they will not support the changes, that will give the government a quote-unquote free blank check. So it goes to the Senate this afternoon.
Which you'll be part of.
I wonder if partner going to call back today.
You wonder if what, sorry?
Partner going to call back today. Asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend, yes. As in YouTube, asking for a friend.
Yeah. So it goes to the Senate today to see if the government can get independent senators' support. We shall see what happens.
And then tomorrow, our guest will be Senator Dr. Paul Richards.
Well, you can't interview me.
Why we can't?
You could try. Nothing stops you from trying.
No, we'll try.
Where is my Google Drive?
It's on your laptop.
I'm looking for it on your laptop and I can't find it. It's very, very annoying. Google is really confusing sometimes, you know.
It is. No kidding, eh?
Because they change it so often, you know. Where's the drive now? Once the drama on this thing, where is Google Drive? Right, I find it. Whew.
That
was a lot. Never a dull moment. But I just sent something, I ain't seen it yet. I need to defrag this computer. That's what I need to do. You remember you started to defrag the computer a long time?
No long I do that.
I need to defrag this computer. Apple don't defrag,
No.
fortunately. But I need to do something with this because this computer is just all over the place. Before I used to be able to download the videos on what you call it. Now we're giving trouble with that. What is this? Why are you stressing me out like this? Anyway, I'm still working on it. Yeah, so those are the big stories I'm editing yesterday. Out of the Tobago House of Assembly and out of the House of Representatives. We will see how it goes regarding the situation. As I told guys in Zoom yesterday, they said, well, these allegations, wouldn't the Prime Minister bring actions? I said, I don't think so, because I think Mr. Augustine may be protected by the same kind of privilege that parliamentarians are.
Yeah, it would.
Protected by. Yeah. Once he makes his statements inside the precincts of the Tobago House of Assembly.
Yeah. So Tobago's part of it.
I said, I don't think that the possibility exists where any any legal action may be brought regarding the allegations. And I think maybe that's why he made his statements instead of there. But he did say he has more to say outside, so we'll see how that goes. Or if that will materialize. I don't think he's going to say a lot of what he said in the assembly, in the public domain. That is not going to be a prudent move. You know? So the drama on the soap opera continues. So we're going to ask the question later on this morning: do you believe the allegations made by the Chief Secretary in the Assembly? That could be the question this morning.
That's a good question. Yeah. But let me remind folks of our poll that from yesterday. We'll give the results coming up in about half an hour's time. Do you agree with the proposed amendments to the Public Procurement Act as proposed by the government? That's our poll from yesterday. It's still up. You have a couple of minutes again to vote on it. So do that. All right. I'm getting both. I did not give temperatures across the globe this morning. Good morning, GNC Auto Security. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Edwin Marshall as well. Good morning to you. I'll give you the temps coming up in a short.
What else is happening? You can give the temperatures now, you know, while I try to fix this.
Well, okay. Again, both I didn't give temperatures. Toronto, you were sitting partly cloudy at 19 degrees. Miami, you're at 29. Orlando, 26. New York, folks out in New York, good morning to you. 22 and sunny. I'm doing Las Vegas because their temperatures are very high. It's 32 degrees already in Las Vegas, and it's 3:18 in the morning, and 32 already. They're going up by 3 p.m. They're going up to 44 degrees. Jeez on ages. All right. Atlanta, 23. London, whoa, Paul, sunny and 21. Tampa, 25.
Nice day.
22.
That would spell a nice day.
Yeah, that's everybody will be outside. Everybody.
They love the warm weather. You see, because when it gets cold, it's so cold and gloomy.
It's so cold and gloomy. You're so right about that.
Yeah, so when it's a little sunny and or mediocre, what we call mediocre warm, they go outside and they're in the shorts and they're running and they out with the kids in the parks and stuff like that. We take it for granted our warm weather because we basically always have warm weather. Yep. So the other issue that is front burner in the papers is the issue of the migrants being held. And according to a newspaper report, the attorneys have said that the requests to meet with their clients have been denied, which is strange because if you have an attorney, you have the right of legal representation.
Yeah. So, and apparently they're going to send back a good bit of them today. From what you say.
Yeah, well, that's what the report is saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they're saying. So we don't know. Good morning to Riri. Good morning, Riri. Riri is in New York City this morning. All right, jet setter Riri. So good morning to Riri. Good morning to H.S. Wilson. H.S. Wilson, you're a funny one, H.S. He said, I would believe Mr. Farley any day over someone who said the government is not closing down Petrotrin. Thank you, H.S. Wilson.
Let's open the phone lines. That people
Good morning,
weighing on
QB.
these allegations. We'll have to manage your conversations lest we end up on the end of a lawsuit. But please be careful what you say. We could open the phone and see what the audience thinks.
Yeah. Good morning, Carl Jack. He said, bless us morning to all from Baghdad. All right. So Carl Jack out in Baghdad, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us and watching us on YouTube. You got to wave for that. You got to wave. I have a buddy of mine that is in Dubai right now, and he sent me some pictures the last couple of days of Dubai. Holy moly. That place nice, boy. That place nice. Dancing Queen. No, okay, I won't sing. Good morning to you as well. Watching us on YouTube. Good morning. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Steve.
Morning.
Morning, Dr. Paul.
Good morning, my dear. How are you this morning?
Super.
Oh, yeah. Premium.
Okay. Oh, my goodness. Because here is it. I don't believe what was said, what Farley said yesterday. First of all, because I was reading where he said that happened a few weeks ago. Now, he had many opportunities to mention that, first of all, right? But the part what he said that got me when he said when the raid happened at his house, right? That was part of it. So he took the opportunity to use the police raid on his house to come out with those stories. Now the young man who said it, I just have a feeling something wrong somewhere. The thing's not adding up because they said he belonged to so many different political parties, but never mentioned he was a part of PNM. So you are part of the PNM, ILP, Christian Moore Party, and so on, but you're meeting with Dr. Rowley? Something wrong there. You all have a good morning.
So people from other parties don't meet with Dr. Rowley?
Well,
maybe you wanted to cross the floor?
Maybe.
It is interesting to play back a video like that in the assembly. It was very odd for me to see it without anybody being able to independently verify if what the young man was saying was true or not. And that is what was kind of odd to me, to be very honest. I mean, documents were being put up, and the video of the interface with the young man and Farley Augustine were being played, and nobody had access to it before. Nobody could stand up to refute what was being said. Nobody could defend themselves. It was odd. Good morning, Richard.
Hi, good morning, guys, and good morning to our listeners wherever you are.
Morning, Richard.
And viewers. Yeah.
And the allegations are extremely serious allegations. I mean, that the Prime Minister directed the allegation that the Prime Minister directed the police commissioner, like the Prime Minister would sit down in front of somebody, pick up the phone, and say, "Hi, Earler, I want you to do X, Y, and Z." That he would be so comfortable to do that is passing a little strange for me. You understand?
Yeah.
It's just also odd.
Is that the issue with Farley and the revelation yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I see it's on the front page of the newspapers today. So,
Well, it would be. I sat down in utter dismay as to what was being alleged. And that the Commissioner of Police was directed by the Prime Minister to go and do X, Y, and Z, 1, 2, and 3. Very, very interesting. And I mean, I guess the presiding officer has full remit in the chamber, so he or she can allow whatever procedure they want. But I've never seen videos played back during an assembly meeting before, or a House meeting, or a Senate meeting? Have you?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever seen documents brought up on the screen for the broadcast for an assembly meeting, or a House meeting, or a Senate meeting?
Well, I don't pay attention to them that much.
No, but they've been reported in newspapers.
So, I mean, but not to my memory. But as I say, I don't really pay attention
Yeah, so
to that degree.
it was very odd. And he played back several videos seeking to support his allegations. Let me say seeking to support his allegations. And in immediate response, the Prime Minister issued a statement, which let me find it to read it.
Yeah. Well, I saw the statement that the Prime Minister would have revealed or would have responded to the whole claim.
But he had to, because you can't let those things, I mean, unless you consider it right. So this is the Prime Minister's response yesterday, which came just after lunch, I think. Is after lunch? And during not long after the revelations or the allegations by Mr. Augustine. 19th July 2023 media release statement by Prime Minister Rowley. Quote, at a special sitting of the Tobago House of Assembly, Chief Secretary Farley Augustine today, which was yesterday, July 19th, 2023, presented serious allegations against me on the floor of the Assembly. The Chief Secretary caused to be played into the Assembly's records a recording which he said he secretly made with one Akil Abdullah, the Membership and Mobilization Officer for the Progressive Democratic Patriots, PDP. In today's proceedings, it was alleged that I have been in contact with Mr. Abdullah and other persons in furtherance of interfering and directing police work. Let me firmly place on the record the following. With respect to Mr. Akil Abdullah, I do not know any person by that name. I've never met with any such person. I've never spoken to him, Akil Abdullah, in any form or fashion. I've never communicated with him in any way. I had absolutely nothing to do with any of that story or action as described by the Chief Secretary and the said Mr. Abdullah. Additionally, I categorically deny that I know Inspector Weaver Ali. I do not know this officer. I've never met her. I've never spoken to her. To the best of my knowledge, I have never been in her presence. I've never been in any meeting of any kind with her, alone or in the presence of any other person, as presented by the Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. Further, I categorically deny that I was in any meeting where persons named as described by the Chief Secretary, that is Officer Weaver Ali, Attorney at Law Gilbert Peterson, imagine they bring in Gilbert Peterson too, and Ansel Dennis. I state without fear of contradiction that this purported meeting wherein I supposedly directed the Commissioner of Police to take certain action never occurred. As far as I am concerned, it's a pure, fanciful fabrication by persons for their own nefarious purpose. Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Keith Rowley. End. The Commissioner of Police also held a press conference, which I don't know why it's not loading in the system, denying any direction by the political directorate or the Prime Minister in relation, to the allegations by Mr. Augustine. And I guess Mr. Augustine's version of evidence is the video recording of Mr. Abdullah. It's interesting that he's being described as an officer in the PDP. You understand? Yes. But Mr. Augustine is no longer a member of the PDP. The PDP is what is led by Watson Duke, who was sitting in the assembly and tried to have the videotape stopped a couple of times during proceedings. So too was the PNM minority leader, who also objected several times but was struck down by the chair. So it's all quite an opera. And again, because it was within the precincts of the assembly, it can't be the subject of legal intervention.
Yeah, there's a privilege.
There's the privilege thing. Yeah, so. Yeah. Whew. I'm tired already. But it was good to see the Commissioner of Police. We haven't seen her for a while.
She came on fast
Well,
for
that's
that.
not true. That's not true. She walked through St.
This
James or some other
weekend,
areas recently. We hadn't heard her for a while.
prior to that.
Yeah, we'd seen her walking through St. James, and yeah. So let me correct that on the record before somebody jumped down my throat this morning.
Did the House vote on the Procurement Act yesterday?
Yeah, it was always going to pass. Government indicated it would use their simple majority to pass the proposed amendments. The opposition had indicated they would not support them, and both followed through on their promises. I saw something come in my mail this morning, marked amendment, but I didn't get a chance to read it yet. So there may have been an amendment.
Did they what was the minimum threshold that they passed yesterday?
It was just a simple majority.
No, I mean the threshold for the Procurement Act.
The same proposals that were negative, change positive to negative resolution, give the minister the opportunity, the ability to do the $1 million, you know.
Oh, million and below.
Exemption, you know, $1 million and under, sorry. Yeah. The same things that were there before that they had proposed. But I see it here as amended. So I've not gotten a chance to go through it yet. So, right, well, yeah, affirmative. And being able to change the regulations, the minister being able to change the regulations. And the minister, on the recommendation of the office, and I think that may mean the office of the procurement regulator, and in consultation with the office, make regulations to give effect to the provisions of the Act, including regulations with respect to XYZ 1, 2, 3. So, interesting word consultation there, but I will not debate it on the air here.
But it's going before the Senate today. So
yep,
you will have your day, so to speak, and what your opinion is on the amendments.
I had a call yesterday.
A call from whom? You can't say I got a call yesterday
and get
on
stopped
a
like that.
broadcast and ask us not to add and expect me to not say this simple question from whom?
A call from somebody who doesn't usually call me.
Well, that's such a big range of people.
I wouldn't say they haven't called in the past, but it was interesting. And it's not the Prime Minister, no. So stop all your wondering. No, it's not. Hear me?
Well, the only person logically could be, if it's not the Prime Minister, is the Attorney General.
No, it's not the Attorney General. It was not the Attorney General.
Okay, well then I have no clue.
George. You have papers?
I do.
Would you care to share it with the audience? Good morning
Sure,
again to you.
So I could start off actually with the Daily Express. And of course, just in case you didn't know, today is July 20th, Thursday, July 20th, 2023. And the main headline on the Daily Express, you hear lie? That's the main headline. And there's a picture of the Prime Minister. There's an inset photo of Farley Augustine. Prime Minister denies all allegations. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley gesticulates in Parliament yesterday. Prime Minister, a pure fanciful fabrication. Peterson, I categorically and unequivocally deny the allegations. Abdullah, not entirely true. TH Chief Secretary.
The young man saying it's not entirely true?
Well, that's what they quoted as saying here.
Okay.
TH's Chief Secretary releases videotapes of whistleblower alleging being paid bribes to damage him. And the main picture is that protesters line the government lined the pavement opposite the Parliament before the start of the special debate on the amendments to the Public Procurement Act yesterday. So it's people holding up Bristol Board, procurement lies,
They
P&M
were quite
forward.
vociferous yesterday. Booed several members of Parliament walking in.
So they have they were on the opposite side of the Red House. So all of that is on the front page. It's chock full of images. Earlier, PM did not direct me. That's also on the front page of the Daily Express. And on the back page, supporters bracket hopes for good crowd for 100th test. That's the main headline actually on the Daily Express back page. The only other subheadline, Liverpool win 4-2 in preseason opener. And that's it for the front and the back of the Daily Express. I'll move on to the Newsday today. And the front page of the Newsday, Chief Sec alleges plot to bring down THA. Cops taking PNM orders is the headline that the Newsday went with. Of course, it's in inverted commas, like a quotation. Commissioner of Police, PM, played no part in audio clip probe. And the main picture is that of the protesters opposite the Red House yesterday. So it's a group of about 100 protesters who refer to themselves as concerned citizens of Trinidad and Tobago staged a demonstration outside of Parliament on Abercrombie Street, Port of Spain on Wednesday before the scheduled start of the sitting of the House of Representatives to debate amendments to the Procurement Act. All of that is on the front page. And on the back page of the Newsday, Buffett first test humiliation behind us. West Indies eyes second test comeback. And I know Wendell and Steve are very positive that they can make a comeback. And so they will be riveted to how this match plays out. Sporting bodies receive $4 million from Sport Ministry. That's also on the back page of today's Newsday. Moving on to the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today. And on the front page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, Farley drops bombshell, releases damaging video of alleged whistleblower Akil Abdullah, draws immediate fire from Prime Minister and Commissioner of Police over conspiracy claims. Senior counsel and minority TH leader also respond. All of that is on the front page. There's a screen grab from YouTube of Akil Abdullah. Chinese firm issues challenge under new Procurement Act. And that's it for the front page in terms of the stories on the front page. And on the back page of the Trinidad and Tobago Guardian, West Indies aim to fight back 100th test versus India. So that's the main story on the back page. And now you're up to date with the three dailies in Trinidad and Tobago today and what the main stories are.
All right. Thank you so much, Richard Rich. Before we get into this morning's poll, let me give you the results of our poll from yesterday. We asked you, do you agree with the proposed amendments to the Public Procurement Act as proposed by the government? That's our poll yesterday. I'll give you the results right after I tell you that. Are you ready to explore the cutting-edge world of computers and controls? Then mark your calendars for the TIC convention. Well, it starts today and ends on Saturday at the Center of Excellence in Macoya. Visit the Computers and Controls booth and witness the future of communication with PBX voice over IP technology. Enhance your network security firewall. Discover the power of seamless connectivity with access points and take your business online with EasyCart. And wait, there's more. There'll be loads of exciting freebies that you won't want to miss. Join the Computers and Controls team for the TIC convention starting today, this morning, till Saturday at the Center of Excellence. You know where it is in Macoya. Computers and Controls, where you can unleash the power of technology and gain valuable insights that will shape your future. All right, the results are pulled from yesterday.
We should call it our convention center. Center of Excellence is our convention center.
You know. Do you agree with the proposed amendments to the Public Procurement Act as proposed by the government? The results are in. 58% said no.
Right. So we're suggesting our question this morning based on the allegations presented in the session of the Assembly yesterday by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine. So our question this morning is, do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine? Very simple.
Simple
Yes
and to
or
the
no?
point. Simple and to the point. All right. So you must have heard about those allegations. It was main news yesterday, everywhere. So, do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine? That's our poll this morning. So, do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine? Yes or no? 222 talk 222-8255. North Americans, you can also vote toll free at 866-525-1099. People in other parts of the planet, you'll have to ring 1-868-222-TALK, 222-8255. And people on the web and app, wherever you are, you can send your votes via the messaging portal on those respective platforms. I'll poll again. Do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine? Of course, this happened yesterday in the THA Assembly. What's your take? Do you believe him? Yes or no? That's our poll. Polling has begun.
222-TALK, 222-8255, 612-8255. Toll free North Americans, 866-525-1099. The Prime Minister has staunchly denied the allegations in full and in part,
as has Gilbert Peterson, Senior Counsel,
as has the Commissioner of Police.
Mm-hmm.
What a web.
We.
And what's unique was Bood coming out of the Assembly with support to Mr. Augustine, interestingly enough. It's all quite the evolving opera. And just giving Raghubar enough material for please.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
what you're looking at me so far is the latest play, which is on next week, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday at 8:30, Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Of course, that is the end of the month. That's July 29th and July 30th at the Central Bank Auditorium. We haven't been there for a while, which is kind of like our initial home where we started all of this so many years ago. So it's always fun to go back to the Central Bank Auditorium. So we are there next weekend, Saturday 29th and 30th. What you're looking at me so for at the Central Bank Auditorium, all outlets have tickets. So you can get tickets. All outlets had tickets yesterday. So
Yeah,
you can
we got
start
ours.
getting your tickets wherever you go in terms of our ticket outlets.
Let's grab this call. Thanks for holding. Good morning.
Morning, gentlemen. My answer is yes.
All right. Thank you. Marcia Rock had said yes earlier on. The Great, good morning. Brenda Isaac, good morning. Slick Money Grip. Mo Gaines out in Aruca, good morning. Dwayne Sylvester. Carol Guevara says no to the poll. I did Brenda Isaac, yeah. 222-8255, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099. That's our numbers directly into the studio. Once again, our morning poll.
Do you believe the allegations as proffered, as presented by Chief Secretary Fali Augustine? Of course, he presented videotapes and stuff and said that there was a whistleblower called Akil Abdullah who indicated, of course, that he was framed or that there was an intent to bring down the assembly, etc., etc. You know the story.
Yep. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Oh, no. It's a fairy tale.
All right. Good morning, caller.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. All righty, buddy. Good morning to Wendy Ann, Mr. Carapo, Ambrose, Big Guy, good morning. Let's see. Stretch says no. Mogest, my vote is yes. Drews, no.
Well, you have several votes. You have several votes on YouTube. You have Dwayne
I said those
Sylvester.
already.
You did?
Yeah. Well, I did some. Rena Boodoo Jennings says no.
Did you do Brenda Isaac?
Yeah. H.S. Wilson said yes. Alan Reese said yes. Good morning, Edwin Marshall. Slick Money Grip says no. Oh, yeah, there's cricket in the Oval. There's cricket starting today. A test match at the Queen's Park Oval, commencing at 10 o'clock this morning. Esther Adams says no.
So do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine? That's our poll this morning. What says you?
GB says no. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning.
No. All right. Thank you. All right. Yeah, do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine? Yes or no? Tell us what you think via YouTube. You send us a message there, like Esther Adams and Slick Money Grip and Edwin and Alan and Brenda. Or you can go to our app or our website and send us a message. Or you can dial us. Take your telephone out and call 222-8255. North Americans do the same. It's a toll-free number, 866-525-1099.
Yes, it was a hot news day. Between the House and the House. Whew.
The houses.
A lot of dramatics. So do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine that the Prime Minister called the Commissioner of Police and say, do X, Y, and Z, that the young man, Akil Abdullah, met with the Prime Minister and Gilbert Peterson, I think it was, they both denied it. And that in front of Akil Abdullah, the Prime Minister picked up the phone and said, tell the Commissioner, earlier, do X, Y, and Z. Miss Maloney?
Says no.
Yeah. And morning to Evie.
So you can vote via the web or the app or via YouTube. You can put your comment on YouTube and we can take your votes from there, which is where some of the votes we are reading are coming from. And our poll this morning, do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine? Of course, you can call us and vote at 222-TALK, 222-8255. North Americans, 866-525-1099. People in other parts of the planet, 1-868-222-TALK, 222-8255. People on the web and the app, send your messages via the messaging portals. People on YouTube, you can send a comment as your vote
and Facebook.
And read it, as well as Facebook.
All this, of course, while the investigation is ongoing into the audio voice tapes in which Mr. Augustine and an unidentified female are heard talking about the potential for hiring people in the assembly to do propaganda work and quote unquote change the narrative. So there have been searches of past and present THA assembly members, including Mr. Augustine most recently at his official residence. The past administrator, I do believe it is, and several other people's homes have been searched, and I think some things taken away. The production order was, or what seemed to be the production order, was put up on the screen while the assembly broadcast its proceedings yesterday. And Richard explained to the audience what a production order is.
production order. What is that? I'm not
When
sure.
they say what the police can search and take and what they can't take.
Oh, is that what he brought up on the screen?
One of the documents he brought up on the screen, yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Karapu says, I believe them. GNC Auto Security says, hell no. Ish out in Malik, morning Ish, says no, disappointed in Farley. Melissa, good morning, Melissa. It's been a while. Hope all is well with you and the family.
So we have Morgans and we have Torrance Brown saying no.
Right. Melissa says no to the poll. Wayne out in Simcoe, Ontario, Canada says no. Rampage says Farley Gate Part 2 of Email Gate continues. No. All right. And as Paul just said, Torrance and Morgan said no. All right.
Yeah,
You can call us now. You have 9.5 minutes to call us. Paul, you do news?
Yes, sir.
All righty then. So 222-8255, toll-free North Americans, 866-525-1099. So numbers directly into our studio. Oh, okay. Oh, no.
Never a dull moment, huh? Never a dull moment. So do you believe Mr. Augustine's startling allegations? Because they can be described as nothing but startling. When I saw what was happening, I said, okay, this is interesting. This is going to cause quite a bit of dramatics, but I guess it was kind of softened by the debate that was due to start in the House, but he did his stuff much earlier in the Assembly. And all this while politicians are supposed to be arrested.
Right. It's true.
You know, if the politicians are working, they come out of vacation to bring drama. It's supposed to be on vacation. They come out of vacation to bring drama for you. They're working even in vacation. So, what else is happening around the world? I saw a gas leak cause a lot of damage in South Africa on a street, one of the main streets in South Africa. There was a gas explosion underground and it really messed up the street. Almost like an earthquake hit the place. Said, wow, that must have been scary. And later on this afternoon, the Senate convenes in extraordinary sitting, like the House did yesterday, to debate amendments to the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Bill and validation also, because they have to validate something for the judiciary when a legal notice, and also the spend on the CARICOM heads of government. And I was wondering, there's a question I had, but it was answered yesterday, in terms of the preparation and time for submitting and processing the request for funding for the heads of government conference. And the Minister of Finance answered yesterday and said that it was because, couldn't be done in time, because it was because the heads of government had to be shifted quickly from Dominica, which had initially intended its intention to host, to Trinidad and Tobago, well, to Trinidad. And that is why all the procurement processes could not be completed in time. So they had to do it and then come to validate it. So
yeah, I saw that article.
I heard all kind of thing about hangman and assistant hangman and thing.
Hangman?
Funding for hangman and assistant hangman. Well, that's what the opposition presented. I didn't look in that detail. I'll have to look at the notice in detail and see the legal notices that requested funding for the judiciary. I think in large respect to deal with jury sequestration and making sure that the judiciary has the money to do that. If they have a case coming up to ensure that the goods and services necessary to complete those actions, to sequester a jury, and also make sure they can be transported and their families kept safe while performing jury service funded in accordance with the law. But I see the opposition leader yesterday, because I followed quite a bit of the debate, called out something in the legal notice for the jury, talking about hangman and assistant hangman. And I said, look, if that is so, why are we making provisions for hangman and assistant hangman? But somebody can send me the legal notices.
Yeah, but I don't know that.
But that's what the leader of the opposition called out. I as I said, I didn't see it myself. I'd have to look at it more carefully.
Okay, that sounds kind of strange.
Yeah, because I know when last we hang somebody in this country that we have
exactly. That sounds
strange. Just in case we're gonna hang somebody and have an assistant hangman. I didn't realize a job description.
Yep. We have some additional votes on YouTube. Lorna Kalu Singh says yes. She says good morning, gentlemen. Yes. Kenny in Harlem says good morning, gentlemen. No to the poll. Leonard Naipaul says good morning to staff. And Trinidad and Tobago. And Edwin Marshall said, was it not what wanting to those? Okay, I'm putting on my glasses. Was it not what wanting to have propagandists employed that started all of this? Just asking. Okay.
Well, a lot of it has to do with, even the chief secretary said so, coming out of the audio tape, in which the discussion was heard about hiring propagandists, not so? And then which triggered the police investigation, which now Mr. Augustine is saying was directed by the Prime Minister in some form or fashion. And the meeting allegedly between Mr. Akil Abdullah, the Prime Minister, and what do you know about Gilbert Peterson getting that?
I have no clue.
All of whom have staunchly denied these things. Well, yeah. You're right, just so you know.
Yes.
Flash says, sorry to say, I believe it did happen, so yes. Sherry, good morning. No to the poll is like a drowning man gasping at straws. Okay. Good morning.
That's what he told me yesterday.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, Grandy. No, I do not believe his claims. It was already debunked by the same interviewee. Okay.
Righty.
So the interview, Mr. Akil Abdullah, you said something, so one of the papers is reporting that Mr. Abdullah said it was entirely true.
Well, the papers are quoted as saying, quote, in terms of the front page, not entirely true. He's quote, Akil is Akil? Abdullah is quoted as
Akil Abdullah.
Is quoted as saying, not entirely true. Whatever that means. Of course, you'll have to dig into it a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Great morning, guys. Keep smiling. All right. Thank you. D says yes to the poll. Both of them have a track record of not speaking the truth. But I believe Farley this time. Okay. Thank you, D.
And I don't understand how. So is Mr. Akil Abdullah still a member of the PDP? Or has he now? And is he the one who made the recording?
I have no clue.
It's just so interesting.
I've seen some more votes coming on under there.
Dave Gosign says no to the poll. Leonard Naipaul says no to the poll.
Never a dull moment. We could, let me tell you something, Richard, you will never have no material. Shakespeare and nothing on Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh boy.
Oh, you feel Shakespeare?
I often wonder that, Paul. I often wonder, I'm like, maybe we are just representative of what's taking place in the rest of the Caribbean, that all island states have this confusion going on.
I don't hear it in the news. I don't hear it in the news in other countries, other Caribbean countries.
I don't know. Maybe somebody can tell us who's living in another island Like if you're living in Barbados and watching this, or if you're living
I'm
in
sure
Jamaica,
there's political
and
drama,
watching this,
but I mean, to this
I
level,
mean,
all the time, so?
does Trinidad seemingly have more
It was
news
the
on a
Briscoe
daily
scenario
basis?
months ago. Then all the videos with that. Then the bus up, and then then the audio tape, and now this. Then the searches, and now this. You understand? It's constant.
I don't know.
I think we just put CCTV cameras all over and stream it to the world and charge a subscription fund fee. You understand? Just put up CCTV cameras and stream live in Trinidad and Tobago. Not a real place. It's 7 o'clock. News is next.
Yeah, let me just give you this vote here. It's not a vote. I'm more for comment. All right, yeah. So let's get into news. Read by Paul Richards.
This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
It is 7 o'clock in Trinidad and Tobago, Thursday, 20th July. This is news to 7 a.m. on News Power Digital. First, the headlines. TTPS head denies political interference in how the service conducts its operations. The government defends its bid to make amendments to the Public Procurement Bill. And wheat prices soar on global markets after Russia said it would treat ships heading for Ukrainian ports as potential military targets. We have details coming up next. It's 7 o'clock in Trinidad Tobago. This is news to 7 a.m. on News Power Digital. Good morning. Police Commissioner Earl Haywood Christopher says her officers acted properly and independently regarding the recent searches of several past and present members of the Tobago House of Assembly. The searches were reportedly in connection with audio recordings of two top THE officials allegedly conspiring to use public funds for the purposes of propaganda. THE Chief Secretary Fali Augustine yesterday alleged political interference and police misconduct regarding the evidence used to acquire warrants for searching of his residence. Speaking at a news briefing just thereafter, the police commissioner dismissed claims of any directive or influence coming from the political arena for the actions of her officers.
I wish to categorically deny that I took any directive from the Prime Minister or that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in pursuing this investigation was motivated, instructed, or directed in any way as is being alleged by the Chief Secretary. I wish to state that, on the contrary, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service acted on its own deliberate judgment and in accordance with the laws of Trinidad and Tobago in the execution of its functions in relation to the matter being investigated.
Commissioner Haywood Christopher described the allegations made by the Chief Secretary at a THA sitting yesterday, Wednesday, as serious, which can impact the integrity of the TTPS.
The Chief Secretary made certain statements which alleges undue influence and involvement of the Commissioner of Police and the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service in inappropriate conduct. These are serious allegations which strikes to the root of the integrity of the TTPS with the potential for very adverse impacts on the very important function of law enforcement. In the face of these allegations, I wish to assure all citizens that I have the assurance of the officers involved, and I am satisfied that the police has acted properly and independently in this matter, and in accordance with our usual practices.
The government yesterday called on the opposition to give its support to proposed amendments to the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Bill. Finance Minister Colm Imber made the appeal while piloting debate on the bill during yesterday's extraordinary sitting of the House of Representatives. Minister Imber claimed the changes will help with the ease of doing business locally, as well as make provisions for emergencies which may arise.
These regulations were not only recommended by the procurement regulator, subject to in-house legal review, subject to public comment, and scrutinized by this House and the other place, but they contain these significant errors in them. And there's a reason for it. This is brand new legislation. We have no history of this. And the regulations themselves are hundreds of pages long. And therefore, this will always happen.
Minister Imber said the regulations have got the backing of public comment, the Parliament, and the procurement regulator. However, Minister Imber said the bill contains errors which must be addressed.
You will hear members opposite stand up and quote the latest publication with respect to the ease of doing business and condemn the government. But the same individuals over there are telling us that we must prescribe and keep unchanged a 3.5 month period for the procurement of our routine items. If we as a government do not faithfully adhere to the requirement that we ensure that things work in this country as best as they can, then we don't deserve to be in government, Madam Speaker.
Meanwhile, the opposition leader, Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, claimed there was no need for the government to hold Wednesday's sitting of the Parliament in a bid to make amendments to the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act. The UNC claims there was enough time for the government to use several sittings of the House of Representatives and the Senate to put forward its case on the issue instead of using the break to rush now to do so. Prasad-Bissessar said on May 5th this year in the media review, the government indicated $20 million was needed to meet the cost of hosting the 45th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM, as well as related celebrations for the 50th anniversary of the establishment of CARICOM by the government from July 3rd to the 6th.
The regulation 14, it tells us very clearly, we start from 12. For the purposes of this part, single source selection means a non-competitive method of procurement whereby a procuring entity engages one supplier or contractor for a procurement, even though there are other suppliers or contractors available. Single source selection may be appropriate under the following circumstances. So you do have exemptions. You do have provisions within the law. I don't think all of us could have sat in this Parliament and say, if an emergency arises, you can't do nothing, shut down the government.
Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar also claimed there are already provisions in the current legislation which relate to emergencies which may arise.
At 02-001-66, hosting of conferences, seminars, and other functions. And under that, $20 million. This meeting took place on the 5th of May, 2023. Wow. And it explains it again in that agenda item. The sum is needed to meet the cost of the hosting of the 45th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government of the Caribbean Community and related celebration of the 50th anniversary of the establishment of CARICOM by the government of Trinidad and Tobago during the period July 3rd to 6th.
Internationally, wheat prices have risen sharply on global markets after Russia said it would treat ships heading for Ukrainian ports as potential military targets. Moscow pulled out of a UN deal on Monday that ensured safe passage for grain shipments across the Black Sea. For the past 3 nights, Russia has bombarded Ukrainians' grain facilities at Odessa and other cities. Moscow has warned that from Thursday, any ship going there would be seen as siding with the Kyiv regime. White House spokesman Adam Hodge suggested Russia was planning to hit civilian ships and blame Ukraine. U.S. wheat futures jumped 8.5%, their highest daily rise since just after Russia's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine. To end our 7 a.m. newscast, we come back home for news of the weather for the period today through midnight. Trinidad and Tobago, generally sunny, hazy and breezy at times, despite the occasional shower in a few areas. There's a low 20 to 30% chance for an isolated, heavier downpour favoring western Trinidad during the afternoon. Mostly fair but hazy night in the event of a heavy shower or thunderstorm. Gusty winds and street and/or flash flooding may occur in those areas. Saharan dust is present in the atmosphere. It is currently 26 degrees at Piarco, 25 at Scarborough, Tobago. Expect a high of 32 degrees and 31 degrees respectively. To run down newscast at 7 a.m. here are the headlines once again. TTPS head denies political interference in how service conducts its operations. Government defends its bid to make amendments to public procurement bill. And wheat prices soar on the global markets after Russia said it would treat ships heading for Ukrainian ports as potential military targets. And that is news to 7 a.m. right here on News Power Digital. We have news coming up at 8 o'clock, headline news with major news again at 12 noon.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital.
All righty, 10 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock on this, the 20th day of July. Thank you, Paul, for our major news. We got a news brief coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. Let's take a look at the traffic. Yep. San Fernando, nothing to tell you about. Heading north. Yep, under Solo, there is an accident right by the Coover turnoff. There is an accident there, so it's creating quite a buildup. All right, that's northbound. Solomon Hotroy Highway, Riverland Road is heavy. Shogunas Main Road is heavy, but Solo onto your right, I got nothing to tell you about. Slow going from Piarco towards Orange Grove, and then heavier towards Page, Barratari, and Port of Spain. Eastern Main Road is not that bad. Just going through Tunapuna and by Aranguez and so on. That's it. All right. So that's your traffic update. Central Animal Lover. Good morning to you. She says, good morning, gentlemen. And she says no to the poll. And thank you so much. Huda Wells, good morning. And Scorpion Pepper, good morning to you as well. All right. So let's get the results of our morning poll.
Well, our poll this morning was or is, do you believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine? We had 31 people voting in the allotted time. Of the 31 people voting during the period, 21 of you said no, you do not believe the allegations as presented by Chief Secretary Farley Augustine, and 10 of you said yes, you do believe it. So 10 said yes, and 21 said no, for a total of 31 in the allotted time voting on our poll. Of course, you can continue to vote on this poll throughout the day, through all programming, and we'll give you the final results tomorrow morning, which will be Friday, because the weekend begins tonight, people, at a second after midnight.
All right, so being that 22, Scorpion Pepper popped in, saying no to the poll. All right, of course,
so that's 32. That's 32 then.
32 votes in total.
There was a meeting, the UNC held a LGE local government election meeting at SWWTU Hall with the NTA last night. Gary Griffith walked in holding the hand of Mrs. Pasalbi Sessa.
Love is in the air. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
Politics, sir. Politics, boy.
Politics, boy.
Love is love.
Love is in the air. Should I continue singing?
Would anybody ever imagine that like 8 years ago?
Not even so long, Paul.
Love is in the air. And Gary Griffith is calling on the Prime Minister, or he dares the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, to take a polygraph test. The results of this this local government election is going to be quite telling, you know.
Yeah.
It's going to be very, very telling. Very, very telling. It will be a kind of prelude to the mood of Trinidad in terms of its appetite for political entities. I don't think it will be considered or can be considered a normal local government election because of all that's happened in the last couple of years, and certainly in the lead up to 2025. And with the number of new parties, including who are quite public, quite present, quite vociferous, including Philip Alexander's PP, Gary Griffith's NTA, Watson Duke in Trinidad, PDP, all walking the ground, and the major political parties, including the PNM and the UNC, having weekly meetings. I think the PNM was in Siparia on Tuesday, the UNC in Port of Spain at SWWTU Hall last night, and they have been quite regular with these meetings. But let's head back over to Tobago.
Yeah, beautiful sister isle of Tobago. And let's welcome to the Power Breakfast Show this morning, Dr. Vanus James. Good morning to you, Dr. James. How are you?
Morning. I'm all right. How are you?
Well, I am not bad. And my other two co-hosts.
And I imagine Paul is great. He looks great.
Well,
as a
trier.
Okay.
I Tobago blood, my mother's from Tobago, so I could take pressure.
I know.
Oh boy.
I spent much of my youth every August and Easter in Tobago, and it was some of the best times in my life.
So you're a Tobagonian?
Partly.
All right.
She thinks differently. Anyway, good morning, Dr. James. Oh, so Tobago is so hot these days.
Yeah,
Tobago hot.
Mm-hmm.
So your initial response to the sitting of the Tobago House of Assembly yesterday, what do you think of it?
Well, let's say as the adage would, that the story is getting curiouser and curiouser. I think we mustn't ignore the context in which last year we had a massive decline in the Tobago economy, and so far nothing has been done much to help the economy recover. And in that context, what I saw yesterday was a chief secretary that is getting more and more embroiled in controversy, a story that is changing from day to day. In the initial phases, it was Watson Duke releasing the video. Now we are hearing of this elaborate conspiracy. And finally, I would say, the most important comment I want to make here is that the chief secretary, in a responsible position like this, should welcome investigations by the national authorities, the police, and so on, if he's done nothing wrong. So I'm not sure I understand this very heady type of pushback that I saw in the chamber. And in fact, I think it is some bordering on disgraceful.
Do you think that pushback helped or hurt him?
Hurt him, I think. I don't think that helps him at all. This is far from what we wanted when we pushed the PNM out of office. We wanted a valuable, change-oriented government that could get things done, not create a disaster in the economy and a disaster in public relations for Tobago at the same time.
It was also an interesting sitting. I don't know, maybe it's happened before, but I've never seen a sitting where video was presented and documents brought up on a screen on a broadcast. Isn't that novel? Is that new? Or the chair, the presiding officer, can approve such occurrences, like in Trinidad and Tobago. But it was quite strange for me to see that. Did that strike you as odd also?
It struck me as odd, and in particular, I think the presiding officer allowed a lot of very, to say the least, unorthodox presentation of materials without first understanding that this contained a lot of claims against leading attorneys and the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister was able to come out and say, well, I've never heard of these people. I've never had any contact with them.
Well, we don't know. Maybe the presiding officer had access to the material before and still found it was...
From my understanding, the presiding officer did not. I was called yesterday evening after the session and told that the presiding officer had no idea.
And to allow unvetted material from the Assembly chamber hall into the public domain?
That's what I'm saying.
I guess you can confirm or refute. I've never seen it before. I know the chair has the permission, the authority to allow it if he or she feels in the Parliament of Trinidad and in the Assembly. I know that's a fact. But I've never seen something like that before.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the persons who called me yesterday evening was the former presiding officer, for example. And she was saying this didn't fit the rules, the way the conduct should, the release should have been allowed, and so on. You ought to check, and from her information, this was not known. This was a kind of back of the hand thing.
Do you think it makes Farley Augustine look more desperate? And how does the trajectory for the term of this current administration look? Do you see them filling out the full term?
Especially in terms of the pushback. I mean, what the setting yesterday really demonstrated to me is that Farley is coming up with these ideas about people being against him in when they speak out on issues, and this is doubling down on that. I revealed week before last, when the budget was presented, and I saw no data in the budget statement about the massive decline in the economy here in Tobago. I went to the public and said, well, I helped to put these guys in power. I cannot sit by as the senior economist on the island and not tell the public. You can't not do it. Immediately, the government launched a barrage of attacks on me for being against them. Now, these are just the facts. The economy declined by 2%. My point is, and more, and not just that, Paul, sectors like construction, 35%, poultry, 35%, and massive decline across the economy. And you don't say a word about it. I speak out and say, well, you should. You're responsible. You attack me. It's the same method that I am seeing with this video. If there is any truth to this, then the public really ought to know. And Farley ought not to be pushing back and saying the magistrates against him, the police against him, and so on. Look, if you have done nothing wrong, what's the complaint? Let the government, let the police do its job, at least.
Well, now he's alleging that the police are not acting independently, which is another limb to this evolving story. So while you say, yes, let the police do their job, he's going a step further and we're not stating that, alleging that, well, the police came and he put up the production orders. He said this alleged meeting between Mr. Akil Abdullah, the Prime Minister, and other people drew in a directive from the Prime Minister to the Commissioner of Police earlier, in parentheses, which the Prime Minister has since denied. Gilbert Peterson, Senior Counsel, has denied. So it is quite. What, I don't even know what the word to use to stay safe.
Messy.
Bizarre. It's bizarre.
Messy and disgraceful for the people of Tobago that our chief secretary should be embroiled in this kind of thing. I mean, I've watched many chief secretaries from Robinson to now, many heads of our government here. I have never seen this kind of involvement in commerce, to say the least. This is not good for the image of the people.
What do you think of the witness? He presented Mr. Abdullah as the person who was recorded with his knowledge and can or cannot substantiate. Richard quoted, I haven't seen the papers, I've only seen the online papers saying that Mr. Abdullah has since recanted part or some of it. So what are you hearing today about that part? Yeah. Sorry? Or it's not entirely true?
Yeah.
Well, among the people who called me yesterday, one made it very clear that they find that this witness, I know Akil very well. I don't know him to be involved in duplicity, I must say. But the person who called me, one of the persons who called me yesterday, claims to know that this is a person who is open to corruptibility, so to say. It's corruptible. Okay, well, let's allow all of this to be tested in the public space.
Well, that's a very strong statement, because Mr. Abdullah is not here to defend himself.
I know. I'm saying that's
what we're not saying he's corrupt, but you're saying he's corruptible, which impugns his character.
Yeah, that's what was claimed. I know him well. I don't know him to be corrupt.
Okay, right. Well, let's just
But,
clarify that.
but I know people called me yesterday and said so. Okay. Well, my deduction from all of that is, if there are questions about evidence and fact and so on, allow the process to work. Allow the judges, if necessary, the courts and so on, to weigh in and say, we've looked at this. This is what we find. That's what we have the judicial system in place for. I don't think, if you ask me, I don't think it is in Tobago's best interest to have our chief secretary embroiled in this kind of controversy in this way, while our economy is being damaged more and more every day. I don't think this is good. This is not what we created a government, remove the PNM and put a new government in power to do. This is very disturbing to me, quite frankly.
And what are the business of the people of Tobago? Because while all this is happening, you're the senior economist on the island. The economy is on the downward spiral. It has been for a while. It's not only since Mr. Augustine took office. It has not.
Okay, hold on the facts there, Paul. Hold on the facts. In 2020, we produced $1.61 billion worth of output. In 2021, the PNM pushed that back up to 1.68. In 2022, it was brought down to 1.65. So the trend when we kicked out the PNM was upwards. The pattern...
But you're saying, which means under the PNM, it was going back up in 2020.
It was going back up, and dramatically so.
But you are a person who are on record as saying you supported Mr. Augustine because the PNM was not doing well. And now you're saying correct. That under the PNM, it was going back up.
That's my point. That, well, the PNM, of course, didn't reveal the data at the time. My point is, we now have access to the data.
So are you saying you made a mistake in kicking out the PNM because they were doing well for the economy?
No. I am not saying that at all.
If you're saying the data now that is available to you shows that the PNM at the helm championed an improvement in the Tobago economy. Is that correct?
From the COVID experience.
Right.
Before that, it was much better. It was better than 1.68. So if you look over the trajectory from the last 5-8 years, the economy declined in general from where it was in 2014, 15, and so on to the 1.68 billion of 2021. But my point is, in 2020, it hit a low of 1.61. And the PNM, after COVID, more or less ended, did whatever they could, brought it up back to 1.68. That may just have been a natural bounce back as people came back to do normal things. But in 2022, the decline of 1.68, my first observation is you cannot hide that from the public if you know it. It's your first year in office, you ought to tell the public. Secondly, some of the sectors that declined, like the quarry, 35%, construction, 35%, are directly under the control and the responsibility of the THA. And they got themselves embroiled in all sorts of fights with the construction sector in this clumsy way that created this decline. And then thirdly, if you look in places like agriculture, which is a small part of the economy, but it's still important because real people are working in agriculture. You're seeing where, in the context of TATCO's responsibility for some re-energizing of the poultry industry, poultry declined by 35%. Now you're responsible to tell the public, this is what is happening and this is why we're budgeting the way we're budgeting this year. My point is the people of Tobago's business is in the dumps. Between then and mid-year, between the end of the year 2022 and now, nothing significant has been done to re-energize the economy. Now you are faced with a crisis in your economy. You have all of this confinement over video and so on. You don't say to the police, well, look, you're coming and do all the business. Check and investigate. I am certain. And you tell the people at Tobago that too. I am certain nothing wrong has been done. And all of this will be for the birds when the investigation is over. Go right ahead and investigate. I wouldn't need somebody conspiracy in Trinidad to let me allow the police to come in and do their job. You come,
But
determine.
he's saying he doesn't think the police investigation is independent.
Well, call for an independent one.
From who?
What do you mean from who? Not all the police in the country are corrupt. Insist
Well,
on whether the
he
Integrity
suggested
Commission,
that
whoever
the
is
head
involved.
of the police service was directed by the Prime Minister. After that, we are calling for investigation. If it is his assertion that the police head was directed by the political directorate, it is his allegation. I'm not saying it's true. Where else is he going to get an investigation? I'm just trying to balance the story here because he has his
what
side,
about the Integrity
and the
Commission?
Prime Minister has denied it, and the Commissioner of Police has denied the
Well, what
allegation.
about the Integrity Commission, for example? Could he not appeal to the Integrity Commission? Say, okay, you are set up there as an independent body. I'm being subjected to all of these accusations. My integrity is being called into question. Why don't you intervene and take a look? I am the Chief Secretary of Tobago. I would look for whatever avenues I have. I don't trust the police, okay. You don't trust the magistracy, okay. But there are other institutions. And in the case where you are uncertain about it, you have the authority under the THA Act to set up your own proper investigation. This business of just focusing on pushing back and accusing everybody of being against you is not good for Tobago. And I think this is clearly a failure of leadership and immaturity, quite frankly.
Do you think that they can last do you think they can last the term? Or do you think
Paul, we've been through this before. The mechanisms available to the country when a government is malfunctioning, to say the least, engaged in malfeasance and so on. The mechanism we have available to the country to remove the chief secretary is purely an election, other than if the members in the parliament have the courage and the politics to move him. This is a very inefficient approach to government. I drew your attention the last time we spoke to the fact that in Britain they moved 2 prime ministers already for breaking the law and for poor performance, poor economic performance. Liz Truss wasn't moved because she committed any crime, just incompetence. And the parliamentarians made the judgment that this prime minister is going to destroy Britain. Now we are having a situation here in Tobago where the prime minister, the chief secretary we have is obviously destroying the economy. And his colleagues don't have the courage and the political strength. And the design of the parliament, of course, is the biggest problem there. So we're stuck with this until the next election. And I am saying, as a country, we ought to, and let me just remind you, you have the same problem in Trinidad with this procurement issue. You cannot have a chief executive being able to make a law and implement the law. You need the rule of law. And what we have in Trinidad and Tobago, and especially in Tobago, is not the rule of law. We need to deal with that. You can't have Farley operating the way he is and his colleagues in the parliament, who are best placed to know what he's doing and investigate what he is doing, cannot do it because they all belong to the executive council bar 3. This can't work. This is a disaster.
You are on record as saying that you don't think, and I'm paraphrasing it, please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Augustine, is fit to hold the office. Would that be what you're suggesting?
I campaigned that he was fit. I am now making the judgment, just like any senior analyst is responsible to make, that he is clearly not fit for the job. You only know a man when you put him to work. Really? And now we have the evidence that he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, that's a quite big mistake.
Mature enough for the job, the level-headedness we need. Even if you're faced with a crisis, the level-headedness we need in the chief secretary's post is not what is being displayed. If I were the chief secretary, I would call in investigators. I would, if necessary, appoint a special team and say, you take this. The law says I can take all such steps. Okay, here's my step. I am bringing in a serious team of capable people, attorneys, this, that, the other, to investigate this matter and get to the bottom of it and let the people of Tobago and the country know what's happening here. He's done nothing like that except to continually change the story and defend himself. This is not good for Tobago. That's my point.
And
We're
what are the
already
other
begging the
political
country money.
elements on the island? You have Watson Duke, you have Dr. Soyafat Angus, you have who else? The PNM, of course. What of the other political elements on the island? Because I mean, with all this controversy, with all this, all the impact on the economy of Tobago, I find that given the imbroglio after imbroglio, drama after drama, controversy after controversy, division after division, that I don't personally have a sense of what the people of Tobago are feeling about all of this.
Well, what I hear from day to day, the Fali has a couple of people who I think will stick with him. But everywhere I go, even when I go to the bank, just like yesterday, people confront me and say, you have to take some responsibility for this. Because
I was going to ask that. And what of your responsibility in this? Because you are an elder in Tobago. You campaigned, mentored this gentleman and his colleagues. You are in quite a large part responsible for endorsing his ability to lead Tobago, and in large part putting him there. And now we have this mess. And now you're saying, well, he's not fit for office, but the damage has been done.
Tobagonians
in your words.
Wherever I go, people tell me, everywhere I go, look, we voted for this government because of you. So what are you going to do about it? Well, of course, you know, Paul, in the political process, and especially in the one that we have in the country, you have to take your time and rebuild. Okay, and let's see, we change course. You're going the wrong way. The act of a wise man is to change course and do something different. That's what we're going to have to try to do. That doesn't mean that I should not say, let's say step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1 is you have to admit when you went wrong. I have been in public saying to the people of Tobago, this was a mistake. We put our foot in our ants nest here. And I could not predict it. I mean, remember, I campaigned all over Tobago for him and for Watson, and promised the people that I could work with them to build the right kind of approach, the right kind of party, the right structure of government under the laws we have now, and so on. Once I began to make the proposals about the way you have to reform and set up the party and the way you have to set up the government, especially so that Tobagonians could participate in the process and allow you to know what should be done. Those proposals, Fali told the media, that part of the proposal was rejected. And I was told in the media last week on an interview, week before last week on an interview, that the reason they do not agree to put the oversight arrangements in place is that it's too bureaucratic. You're talking about democracy here. Systems to allow the public to participate in the decision-making process. And I was told that a spokesperson for the government said, this is too bureaucratic to be done in Tobago. Well, if you don't want any democracy, you think democracy is too bureaucratic, then it is my responsibility to go to the people and say, this is not acceptable. You can't run a system of government that is autocratic and have any chance of developing the Tobago economy. And we're already in a big mess depending on Port of Spain for money.
What would Mr. Augusta need to do at this stage to regain the confidence that you say he's lost? If you think there's anything he can do?
Well, I'm not certain that he personally can do anything. From what I am observing in the way he operates, I am not sure. I don't think he personally can do anything. But if I were in his position, I would call a team of Tobagonians together, put together the same kind of team I was talking to him about in January last year. Get a team of high-level Tobagonians, 4 or 5 or 6 people, and say to the public, look, we're in some trouble here. Our economy is in trouble, and we're caught up in all of this confusion. We need a new way forward. Get the team in place and allow the team time to call in the public and hear from the public what it has to say, and then make recommendations about step 1, step 2, step 3 going forward. I think the public would buy that. What Fali and his team is doing in these town hall meetings would be very ineffective. As you know, Eric Williams was the expert in town hall meetings, and the government still was destroyed under him. So and the economy too. So we're not going to be able to make progress by Fali simply holding town hall meetings. This is going to need a clean committee of capable people. We have competent Tobagonians living here who could participate in the leadership in that sense.
How much does this, if at all, damage the call for self-governance or autonomy for Tobago? Because some people looking around may say, well, the assembly is a mess.
Severe
controversy after controversy.
Severe damage, especially if you call for it the way they are calling for it. The basic argument I was told a couple of weeks ago is that, well, we have oil in Tobago and gas in Tobago, and we need a fair share of the oil and gas. And in order to get the fair share of the oil and gas and so on, we need the autonomy. I don't think, as an economist, I would tell you, I don't think that's the case that we have to make at all. Autonomy is not about your share in the oil and gas. Autonomy is about establishing the capacity to make law, to control executive behavior in Tobago. The very thing I am complaining and complained under the PNM about, and I'm complained in the country about since 1970. We need to set up the government so that we can make law to constrain, instruct, restrain behavior of executive power. That's the enemy in democracy. And if you don't sort that out, you're in trouble. And that's why we need lawmaking power. You can't know in Trinidad what we have to make law about here to control our executive. And that's why you need it here. Autonomy doesn't mean separation from Trinidad or anything like that. It means allocating sufficient amounts of lawmaking power to allow for effective control of the executive in Tobago by the people's representatives. And if you understand that, you may set conditions when you are making that, allowing for that design to come into being. You may set conditions relating to the boundaries, what is Tobago, rather than the 6 mile limit. That may give you room to admit that the oil and gas is in Tobago as a nation, and you may find that is in the public interest to do that. And we make that kind of case. That's the way we have to approach autonomy. And if we approach it that way, it would also involve the conversation with Trinidad about the kind of government you have to set up in Port of Spain. Because the kind of government you set up down there now doesn't really work well. For the country, it doesn't work well for Tobago. So the whole country needs constitutional reform to deal with all of these fundamental problems. And
Dr. James, are you willing to take some calls?
Mm-hmm.
Are you willing to field some calls from our audience?
Of course.
All right, thank you. The audience also has some questions, I guess, on comments. You can start calling now. Our guest is Dr. Vanus James, 222-TALK, 222-8255, 612-8255, and toll-free if you are in North America, 866-525-1099. I'll tell you, I was in London last week and had interfaced with some members of Commons and House of Commons, and the devolution conversation, even in the UK, it is not a straightforward, easy one in their words, with Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. It is, and they are much, much older democracy than we are. And I will tell you, they had no, in my opinion, it's not an easy and clear and straightforward way forward, given all the intricacies of unions that have been existent and dependent in so many different ways and share so many different advantages and liabilities. So it's not an easy conversation or straightforward conversation.
They have their history, they have their own problems and so on. We are working in a culture in which was crafted in slavery and strict indenture. And we understand the nature of the problem we are solving. Maybe they had to cut off Charles one neck in order to get to where they are. We haven't cut off anybody's neck, but we know that authoritarian systems from our history don't work. And all over the Caribbean, the evidence is there. We're making no progress fundamentally with our economies run with an authoritarian structure. And the evidence we have is that if you clean up the institutional arrangements, including especially the governance arrangements under which you make policy and set the environment for enterprise, we could make progress. They don't have to solve that problem because they've used the destruction of their monarchy to build a viable developed economy. We're still on the road to that, and to get there, we can't make any progress unless we clean up the institutions. And the heart of the cleaning up of the institutions, even if they don't know it, we should know that the essence of the cleanup of our institutions is to set up arrangements under which the elected representatives of the people, the famous rule of law, the elected representatives of the people that are in any part of your system must be able to constrain and control the actions of the executive.
Well, with that said, given what you've seen in the last...
But we do.
Yeah, I think we have callers.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. Caller, good morning. All right, not there. Let's take another call. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I want to tell the doctor that he went up, he at the top of my list of respected people for the things that he just articulated. For one, acknowledging that publicly acknowledging that, hey, I make a mistake, right? Two, for publicly acknowledging that, hey, under the PNM, we were wrong. We didn't have the information, but under the PNM, Tobago was doing much better. It was improving. And that is such a big man thing to do. And I really respect him for that, for acknowledging that publicly. And I would start to listen to him more regularly now. Right? Thank you very much for your honesty and your candidness.
All right, thank you.
Well, let me clean up the record that I am saying. We had a better economy in 2014, 2015, 1.7, 1.8 billion. Under the PNM, that declined. The people became upset, and it went down to 1.61. COVID cost the PNM in Tobago because of the way they handled it and the way they were simply following what the central government was saying. And then they succeeded, and I am open about that. The evidence shows they succeeded in moving that needle up from 1.61 billion to 1.68. Right. The people of Tobago felt, 16,000 of us felt, the PNM was not doing a good job with our freedoms or democracy and so on. The PNM has stood over the years firmly against fundamental lawmaking power to constrain executive power in Tobago, just like it has stood against it in the country. Rowley said he don't want to change the rules in 2015. Those rules have to change in the context of Tobago. So all of that factored into why we moved the PNM. Now, if I am in power and my 1.68 economy that I inherited declined to 1.65, I would be transparent with the people of Tobago and tell them. That's what I am saying to the caller. Don't hide anything. It's the people's business. So Farley is wrong to put forward a budget and not tell Tobagonians that the economy declined by 2%. Real incomes for households fell by 6.1%. You have to tell the people that and explain that to them why you budget in the way you do. So I wanted to just, I accept the caller's commendations, but that's what I was really saying.
All right, we have another call. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
I heard Mr. Vanus James saying, if I were Farley. You cannot be Farley.
True.
You can't say if I were Farley. You and Farley is two different people. Now the next thing is, what goes around comes around. Remember Emailgate? When the Prime Minister bought Emailgate, a lot of people say it was true. And he's saying that the members of the PHA, they don't have the power to do this and do that. The same thing in the Emailgate. They think the members of the PLM Parliament didn't know what was going on. What they do, they know about it. So what goes around come around. So Dr. Rowley bought at the Parliament. It was true. So when Farley bring it now, it can't be true. You see, we go down in circles. What goes around comes around. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you.
Well, Paul, I misspoke. I didn't mean to say if I were Farley. I meant if I were in Farley's position. That's...
All right, Richard's going to ask something.
You said that Tobago suffered a 2% decline. What would be your analysis of what caused that?
Well, there are several major sectors that went into decline and drove the economy downwards. At the heart of it, for example, was a withdrawal of credit by the banking system. The banking sector fell by 2.7%. Credit unions grew by 7.8%, but they couldn't offset the withdrawal of credit by the banking system, and that would underwrite a decline in investment and big spending by businesses and so on. Many businesses were even foreclosed. So that's an underlying factor. But the fight between Farley and the construction sector caused a 35% decline. And the fight between Farley and the center, let me say the in-export fight between Farley's team and the central government over the quarry led to a decline in output of 35% in the quarry. So
when you say fight, what do you mean?
When I say fight?
Yeah, I mean, it might seem like a no-brainer, but what does that mean?
Well, the fight with respect to the construction sector is the way Farley handled the matter of the contracts that the contractors had with the PNM government before, right? If under my government, I won't handle that way. I'd put an expert team in place to deal with the contractors, deal with their issues, but I will not drive them out of my economy because I know they amounted to about 5% of the Tobago economy, and you can't just dismiss that as trivial. So I would say to them, look, if you're going to invest under my government, you will invest under rules that don't allow you to be corrupt. But I'm not running a church. So keep investing, pay attention to the proper rules, and we let the law take its course. The same way I am saying now, let the law take its course with respect to Farley and his team. So that's one sense of the fight. But there was also some...
And what about those who say the consternation came because some contractors expected it to be business as usual and didn't like any upturn of the system where they may have benefited more than others?
Well, you know the reason I call for good governance. Let the people of Tobago weigh in on that. I would call my hearings and have the people indicate if they want to engage with contractors on business as usual terms. If business as usual means corruption, I would say no. And my government wouldn't be part of that. We will have clear procurement rules, financial rules, and so on, and things would be done subject to the rule of law and subject to the oversight either of the internal structures in the parliament or of expert teams like advisory teams from the public that could fill in the gap until we reform the parliament. I would not allow any corruption in my government, but that would be because I would emphasize the role of law in a place like Tobago. So this is not the science of rockets taking you to the moon. We understand what we have to do to allow the economy to function well without corruption. And that's what I would put in place.
How is tourism doing on the
island? There's been some recovery, partly because we had some big investments. I inquired of some of the business people involved just a couple of days ago, and they're saying, well, they're surviving. They need much more sales to meet their bills and so on, but they're surviving. So we had some of that, and there was a uptick last year. And of course, post-COVID, as you know, the traffic between Tobago and Trinidad has also picked up again, although we're still having problems with the sea bridge. Not the sea bridge, with the air bridge. So, the air bridge especially. So, but it's been picking up. So tourism is not among... Let me say, hotels and guest houses, they are not among the sectors that declined. They improved substantially, but their improvement could not offset the major declines in the other sectors.
You know what's interesting? I'll tell you what's interesting. I was in Barbados on Saturday for about 10 hours. And driving around and asking questions, I saw two schools of medicine, Ross Medical
Right.
College and another one. And I'm like, so this is interesting. What's that about?
Exactly.
They are partnering with international medical schools to come to Barbados to set up these schools, like Grenada has done and been very successful. Is it St. George's Medical School?
That's
in
right.
Grenada?
That's right.
And that's extremely successful. And it has been such a successful initiative in Barbados, setting up these medical schools. And I'm saying, not to mention moving around. I was taking to dinner this Saturday night, and every restaurant full. Every restaurant you pass is full. I'm saying, and you on the beach and you're seeing a lot of tourists. And there were 3 flights on the ground when I landed. British Airways, Virgin, and JetBlue, all packed with tourists at the same time. So it spoke to us, and wow, that's not to say Barbados doesn't have its problems, but you're actually seeing it manifesting in front of you that things are moving in the right direction.
Well, let me endorse the use of the example of the medical schools. I mean, it's the general principle, of course, is beyond healthcare. It goes into education and all of these kinds of things. So when you look at St. George's, it's a blend of the health focus and the education focus. And we're also doing good things with the creative industries, as you know. And if you're going to do these things, then hotel plant issues come up. Those are all capital investments to build an economy. But let me remind you too that we have the example of what happened in the Bahamas. They spent $5 billion to build the financial services sector, which is a capital export sector, and now they are up to $29,000 per capita. Barbados is somewhere in the region of 15. They got Ross from Dominica. Dominica was doing this before them, and Ross moved from Dominica after the hurricane to go there. So we know the principle is correct. You're right on target. It is true to say that if you're any Caribbean economy, you have to begin to think in terms of investing in exportable capital service industries. That's the fundamental principle of economic restructuring. Even Trinidad and Tobago has to pay attention to. And we need to have CARICOM-wide broad policies about it to allow us to drive all of that with the entrepreneurship and so on that would drag it forward. That's the correct answer. But that's something we have had a lot of trouble clarifying for Caribbean governments who are obsessed still with natural resource-based development processes, including natural resource-based tourism. And back in 1997, after visiting St. George's and seeing what they were doing, one of the things I incorporated into the Tobago Development Plan was the idea that we would build an exportable education sector in Tobago. And that was where the original proposition came from, to set up a second university in the country. So we understand the importance of exportable education, tertiary especially, exportable healthcare, exportable financial services, exportable creative industries, and so on. And that's where we are competitive as against manufacturing. Trinidad and Tobago is in a good spot because you could use the cheap energy to do some manufacturing. But in the long run,
that's not a bad thing. Cheap energy is a competitive advantage, so why not?
Sure. That's what I'm saying. That's a good spot, and you use that to see how far you could go with competitive manufacturing. But in the long run, you're going to find yourself, just like the North Atlantic and countries generally, in a position where the large cheap labor economies like China and India and so on will be tough to beat on the manufacturing front. And that is why global manufacturing migrated to those countries. It's the competitiveness that you have to worry about. And the capacity to innovate is at the heart of why we need these tertiary-oriented education exportable universities, because in the end, we are going to survive by our ability to innovate. That's what our creative industries demonstrated for us, and we have to underwrite them with strong university-related research capacity for us to hold our own. But Paul, don't get too far from the point. that none of that is possible. And none of that is going to allow you to make very great progress if you don't sort out the way decisions are made. If you don't sort out the institutional arrangements, the way
governance
you
structures,
policy. Yeah, if you don't fix that, you will make mistakes with policy and it will be one step forward, two steps backward all the time. To avoid that, you've got to sort out the governance arrangement, set up strong policy making options that allow everybody to participate in the policy making process. That is where you will get the information from to know what is the right investments to support and so on. That's where that is going.
Everyone talks it when they are seeking office, and then when they get to office, no, let's leave it. So, Dr. James, thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate your time and your contribution.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Paul.
Right.
Have a nice day.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Vanus James. All the best to you. All right. Let's get into our...
You all have a great, wonderful day. Be safe as you go. And don't forget, coming up at the end of the month, he didn't slow this morning, boy.
Oh, sorry. Oh, my God. What? You're looking at me so full.
He didn't slow this morning.
Theater is on this next weekend, Saturday the 29th and Sunday the 30th at Central Bank Auditorium. And of course, tickets available at all the usual outlets, including Electronics, Arima, Pet Butler in Curep, Rumbox in St. James, Key Squared Fashion in West Mall, Fens of Marabella in Piaco Plaza, Jabili Rawi in Tunapuna, Creme Fresh in Chagonas, and Brentwood Mall in Chagonas. All of these are outlets, Sharply Auto Services, all of these are outlets where you can get tickets, and tickets are available at all of these outlets as we speak. What you're looking at me so for is on next week, Saturday and Sunday. I'll be looking forward to it. It's going to be so incredibly funny. A really good romantic comedy. So we'll see you next week at the theater, Central Bank Auditorium. Anyway, have a fantastic day today. Of course, today is Thursday. Thank God. I've had a long week. So the weekend begins tonight, people, at the second after midnight. And tomorrow is Friday. So put a smile on your face because the weekend is here. Have a good one.
All right, gentlemen, do have a great one, and all that you do, be safe. All right, let's get into our 8 o'clock news brief, AVZ.
This